Most people believe that if they think more, they will make better decisions. Society has taught us that constant analysis means intelligence, that worrying means we are responsible, and that replaying situations again and again in the mind will somehow protect us from failure. But the truth is very different. Overthinking is not wisdom. Overthinking is fear pretending to be intelligence. Think about this for a moment. When you sit alone and your mind keeps running in circles, are those thoughts really helping you move forward? Or are they mostly questions like, what if I fail? What will people say? What if I am not good enough? What if everything goes wrong? These thoughts are not solving problems. They are creating imaginary disasters. Wisdom simplifies, fear complicates. A wise mind asks one or two clear questions and then acts. A fearful mind asks 100 questions and remains stuck. Overthinking does not come from having too many options. It comes from not trusting yourself. Deep inside, it is not the situation that scares us. It is the possibility of being judged, rejected, or proven wrong. So we keep thinking because thinking feels safer than doing. The mind has a very clever trick. It convinces you that you are preparing, when in reality you are avoiding. You tell yourself, let me think a little more, but that little more becomes days, months, even years. Opportunities don't disappear because you are incapable. They disappear because you are overthinking them to death. Fear loves delay, courage loves action. If overthinking was truly intelligence, then the most successful people would be the ones who think the longest before acting. But look at real life. The people who grow are not the ones with zero fear. They are the ones who move despite fear. They don't wait for the mind to be fully convinced. They understand that the mind will always find reasons to hesitate. That is its nature. The mind is designed to protect you, not to help you grow. Fear always speaks in the language of logic. It says, be careful, this is risky, now is not the right time. It sounds reasonable, that's why we fall for it. Wisdom, on the other hand, is quiet. It doesn't shout. It simply nudges you forward and says, try. Overthinking is loud, dramatic, and exhausting. Wisdom is calm and decisive. Notice how overthinking mostly focuses on things that are not in your control. People's opinions, future outcomes, worst case scenarios. Real intelligence focuses on what is in your control, your effort, your next step, your attitude. The moment your thoughts move away from action and into endless prediction, you are no longer being smart, you are being scared. Many people say, I am an overthinker, that's just my nature. But overthinking is not a personality trait. It is a habit. And habits are learned. If it can be learned, it can be unlearned. The habit was formed when fear was rewarded with comfort, when not acting felt safer than acting. Slowly, the mind associated thinking with safety. And now, every time action is required, the mind pulls you back into thought. Overthinking also comes from the illusion of control. We believe that if we think enough, we can control the outcome. But life does not work that way. You can plan, but you cannot predict everything. No amount of thinking can guarantee success. What guarantees growth is participation. You learn by doing, not by imagining. There is a simple test to know whether you are being wise or fearful. Ask yourself, is this thought moving me closer to action or further away from it? If it is pulling you away, If it is draining your energy, if it is making you doubt your worth, then it is not intelligence, it is fear in a suit and tie. Wisdom accepts uncertainty. Fear demands certainty. And because certainty never fully comes, fear keeps you stuck. Life rewards those who act with incomplete information. Waiting for the perfect moment is the most intelligent sounding excuse fear has ever invented. When you stop glorifying overthinking, you reclaim your power. You realize that not every thought deserves attention. Some thoughts are simply passing clouds, not commands. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to analyze them. You just need to move anyway. The moment you take action, even a small one, something magical happens. The noise in the mind reduces. Confidence begins to grow. Fear starts losing its grip. Action brings clarity that thinking never can. That is why overthinking is not wisdom. Wisdom is simple, grounded, and brave enough to begin. So the next time your mind tells you to think more, pause and ask yourself, am I being intelligent or am I just afraid? That single question can shift your life. Because the moment you choose action over overthinking, fear loses its disguise and wisdom finally gets a chance to lead. Most people are waiting for clarity before they move forward. They tell themselves, once everything is clear, then I will act. It sounds reasonable, mature, and responsible. But in reality, this mindset quietly keeps millions of people stuck in the same place for years. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Clarity does not come before action. Clarity comes after action. Think about how life has actually taught you anything meaningful. You did not learn to walk by first understanding balance, gravity, and movement. You stood up, you fell, you tried again. With every step, clarity increased. The same principle applies to every area of life: career, relationships, confidence, purpose. We don't see the full path before we start walking. The path reveals itself as we walk. The mind craves certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants assurance that things will work out before taking even the smallest risk. But life does not give guarantees. If you wait for your mind to feel fully confident and clear, you will be waiting forever. The mind will always find one more doubt, one more question, one more reason to pause. Many people confuse clarity with comfort. They think clarity means feeling calm, fearless, and completely sure. But real clarity often feels uncomfortable at first. It feels like taking a step into the fog. You can't see the entire road, but you can see just enough to take the next step. That is all life ever asks from you, just the next step. Action has a unique power that thinking does not. When you act, you receive feedback. You learn what works and what doesn't. You discover strengths you didn't know you had. You also discover weaknesses, but those weaknesses guide you. Thinking alone gives you assumptions. Action gives you information, and information creates clarity. Notice how people who are stuck often say, I don't know what I want. But the reason they don't know is because they haven't tried enough things. Clarity about what you want comes from experiencing what you don't want. You cannot think your way into passion, you act your way into it. Every experience sharpens your understanding. The fear behind waiting for clarity is the fear of making the wrong choice. We believe that one wrong step will ruin everything. But life is not that fragile. Most decisions are not permanent. They are directional. You can adjust, change, and course correct. But if you never move, there is nothing to correct. Action also builds trust with yourself. Every time you take a step despite uncertainty, you send a message to your mind, I can handle this. Slowly, self-doubt weakens. Confidence grows not because everything is clear, but because you have proof that you can adapt. Clarity is born from self-trust. Over time, waiting for clarity becomes a habit of avoidance. We tell ourselves we are being careful, but deep down we are afraid of responsibility. Because once you act, you can no longer blame confusion. Action makes you accountable. And accountability is uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. Life moves quickly. Opportunities don't wait for perfect understanding. While you are thinking, someone else is learning by doing. They may not be smarter than you, but they are braver in taking imperfect action. And because of that, they gain clarity faster. It's important to understand that clarity is not a feeling, it is a process. It unfolds step by step. Expecting full clarity before starting is like expecting sunrise before the night ends. Dawn comes because the sun rises, not because the sky waits until it is bright enough. When you take action, even if it is messy, even if it is small, you create momentum. Momentum changes your mindset. Suddenly, instead of asking, should I? You start asking, how can I improve? That shift alone transforms your life. Some of the biggest breakthroughs happen after wrong decisions. Not because wrong decisions are good, but because they teach you what you truly value. Without action, values remain abstract. With action, they become clear. If you feel confused today, don't see it as a sign to stop. See it as a sign to start. Start anywhere. One phone call, one application, one conversation, one honest attempt. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. The mind will resist. It will say, wait a little longer. But clarity is loyal to action, not to waiting. The moment you move, life responds. Doors open, doors close, lessons appear, and direction sharpens. Stop waiting for clarity to give you permission. Give yourself permission to act. Clarity will follow you, not lead you. And once you understand this, confusion no longer feels like a barrier. It becomes a doorway, one that only opens when you push forward. Every human being wants to grow, but very few are truly comfortable with the process that growth demands. The reason is simple. Growth requires courage, while the mind is designed to seek comfort. The mind's primary job is not to make you successful or fulfilled. Its job is to keep you safe. And safety, in the mind's language, means familiarity, routine, and predictability. This is why even when we are unhappy, we often stay where we are. The situation may be painful, but it is known. The mind prefers a known pain over an unknown possibility. Comfort zones are not always comfortable, they are just familiar, and familiarity gives the mind a false sense of security. Growth begins exactly where comfort ends. The moment you decide to do something new, the mind reacts. It creates fear, doubt, and resistance. Not because the action is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar. The mind does not ask, will this help me grow? It asks, is this safe? And anything unfamiliar is labeled as a threat. This is why courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to act despite fear. If you wait for fear to disappear, you will never move. The mind will always find reasons to stay still. It will remind you of past failures, exaggerate risks, and minimize your potential. It will whisper, Why leave what you know? At least here, you are safe. But safety and growth rarely exist in the same space. Comfort keeps you stable. Growth makes you unstable at first. And instability is necessary for transformation. Just like a seed must break open to grow into a plant, you must be willing to feel uncomfortable to evolve. The mind often confuses comfort with happiness. But comfort is passive. Growth is active. Comfort keeps things the same. Growth changes you. Many people spend years chasing comfort, only to realize later that comfort, without growth, leads to emptiness. The soul craves expansion, challenge, and meaning. When those are missing, even a comfortable life can feel hollow. Courage shows up in small moments, not just dramatic ones. It is choosing to speak when you want to stay silent. It is choosing to start when you want to wait. It is choosing discipline when the mind wants ease. These choices don't feel heroic in the moment, but they shape your life. The mind will often say, "Let me prepare more," when what it really means is, "Let me stay comfortable." Preparation is important, but endless preparation is avoidance. There comes a point where preparation must turn into participation. Growth only happens through engagement with life, not observation from the sidelines. Comfort also feeds the ego. When you stay in familiar territory, you feel competent. You know how things work. You know what to expect. Growth challenges that identity. It makes you a beginner again. And the ego hates being a beginner. But humility is a doorway to learning. The moment you accept that you don't know everything, growth accelerates. Courage does not guarantee success, but comfort guarantees stagnation. When you choose courage, you choose possibility. When you choose comfort, you choose certainty, but certainty of the same results. If you want a different life, you must be willing to feel different emotions along the way. The mind will try to negotiate. It will say, "Once I feel confident, then I'll take the risk." But confidence is built through experience, not before it. Every courageous act, no matter how small, strengthens your inner resilience. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes normal. Growth expands your comfort zone, but only after you step outside it. It's important to understand that discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is often a sign that something is changing. We misinterpret discomfort as danger, when in fact it may be growth in progress. Learning to sit with discomfort without running away is a powerful life skill. When you consistently choose comfort, you teach the mind that fear is in control. When you consistently choose courage, you teach the mind that fear is not the decision maker. Slowly, the mind learns to trust your leadership. Life rewards courage with depth. Depth of character, depth of understanding, depth of experience. Comfort offers surface level peace. Courage offers meaningful fulfillment. One keeps you safe. The other helps you become. So whenever you feel resistance, instead of asking, "How can I stay comfortable?" ask, "What is this trying to grow in me?" The answer may not be easy, but it will be honest. And honesty is where real transformation begins. The mind will always choose comfort if you let it. Growth will always require courage if you want it. The choice is subtle, daily, and deeply personal. But over time, those small choices define the size of your life. One of the most misunderstood truths about the human mind is this: the louder the thoughts, the less the movement. When the mind is inactive physically, it becomes hyperactive mentally. This is why overthinking usually happens when we are doing nothing. The mind fills the silence with noise, and the most powerful way to quiet that noise is not by arguing with your thoughts, but by taking action, especially small, simple action. Big goals often create big mental chaos. When we think about the entire journey, the mind gets overwhelmed. It starts calculating time, effort, risks, and outcomes all at once. This overload creates paralysis. The mind says, "This is too much," and shuts down. But small actions bypass this resistance. They don't threaten the mind. They don't feel dangerous. They feel manageable. A small action does not require motivation, it creates it. When you take even a tiny step, the mind shifts from imagination to reality. Instead of worrying about everything that could happen, you are now dealing with what is happening. This grounding effect immediately reduces anxiety. The mind prefers certainty and action. Even small action creates certainty. Think about moments when your mind was racing. Often, the moment you started doing something, writing, cleaning, walking, calling someone, the mental noise reduced. Not because the problem disappeared, but because your attention moved from fear to function. Action anchors you in the present moment. Overthinking pulls you into an imagined future. Small actions also break the illusion of helplessness. Overthinking often comes with the feeling, "I don't know what to do," but that is rarely true. There is almost always something small you can do. When you do it, you remind yourself that you are not powerless. Powerlessness feeds anxiety, agency dissolves it. The beauty of small actions is that they do not demand confidence. You don't need to believe in yourself fully to take a small step. You just need to be willing. This is why small actions are so effective. They lower the emotional cost of starting. Once you start, momentum takes over. The mind loves completion. When you complete even a tiny task, the brain releases a sense of satisfaction. This chemical response reinforces action. Slowly, action becomes easier. The mind learns that movement feels better than rumination. Over time, this retrains your mental patterns. Overthinking is often an attempt to solve emotional discomfort through logic. But emotions don't respond to logic alone. They respond to experience. Action provides experience. And experience changes how you feel. You cannot think your way out of anxiety, but you can act your way into calm. Small actions also protect you from perfectionism. Perfectionism sets unrealistic standards and then punishes you for not meeting them. Small actions say, "Just begin." They remove the pressure to be perfect. They create progress without judgment. When life feels overwhelming, the question is not, "How do I fix everything?" The question is, "What is the smallest useful thing I can do right now?" That one question shifts your entire nervous system. Suddenly, the problem shrinks. The mind relaxes. Small actions create evidence. Evidence that you can move forward. Evidence that fear does not control you. Evidence that progress is possible. This evidence is far more convincing than positive thinking. The mind trusts proof more than promises. As you accumulate small wins, your self-image begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is stuck and start seeing yourself as someone who acts. Identity follows behavior. When behavior changes, thoughts follow. It is important to understand that small actions are not insignificant. They are foundational. Every big achievement is built on small, often invisible steps. The mistake we make is waiting for a big breakthrough instead of respecting small progress. Silence the mind not by force, but by movement. Not by controlling thoughts, but by redirecting energy. When the body moves, the mind follows. Action gives thoughts a job, and when thoughts are busy serving action, they stop attacking you. So the next time your mind feels loud and chaotic, don't ask it to calm down. Give it something small and meaningful to do. One task, one action, and watch how the noise begins to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence that only movement can create. At some point in life, almost everyone asks the question, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why do I have to struggle when others seem to move ahead so easily? Why am I facing this problem, this delay, this disappointment? The question feels natural, even justified. It comes from pain, confusion, and sometimes exhaustion. But while why me may express our emotions, it rarely improves our situation. In fact, the longer we stay with that question, the longer we remain stuck. The question, why me, quietly places us in the position of a victim. It suggests that life is happening to us, not with us. When we stay there too long, we give away our power. Because if the focus is only on why something happened, the focus is no longer on what can be done next, and life only moves forward when we shift our attention from explanation to action. What now is a very different question. It does not deny pain or difficulty. It does not pretend everything is fine. Instead, it accepts reality as it is and looks for the next step. What now puts you back in the driver's seat. It says, this is the situation. I may not like it, but I am still responsible for my response. Blaming circumstances, people, or fate may give temporary emotional relief, but it comes at a cost. It keeps us mentally trapped in the past. Responsibility, on the other hand, points to the future. Responsibility is not about fault, it is about control. You may not control what happened, but you always control what happens next. When life feels unfair, the mind wants reasons. It wants someone or something to blame. But many times, there is no satisfying answer to why me. Some things happen not because we deserve them, but because life is unpredictable. Waiting for life to explain itself before you move forward is like waiting for the rain to apologize before you find shelter. What now shifts the energy from emotion to execution. It breaks the cycle of rumination. The moment you ask it, the mind starts looking for options instead of excuses. Even if the options are limited, even if the situation is difficult, asking, what now, creates momentum. Responsibility can feel heavy at first because it removes excuses. But it is also liberating. When you stop waiting for others to change or for circumstances to improve, you discover strength you didn't know you had. Responsibility reminds you that your power may be limited, but it is never zero. Many people misunderstand responsibility as self-blame. They think taking responsibility means saying, everything is my fault. That is not true. Responsibility simply means saying, this is my life, and I will decide how I respond. It is about ownership, not punishment. Life often tests us in moments we did not choose. These moments reveal our character more than our comfort ever could. Anyone can stay positive when things are easy. Responsibility shows up when things are hard. It is choosing maturity over bitterness, action over complaint. When you ask, why me? Repeatedly, you relive the pain again and again. When you ask, "What now?" you begin to heal. Healing does not always come from understanding the past, it often comes from building a future. Responsibility also restores dignity. Complaining keeps you dependent. Responsibility makes you self-reliant. Even when you ask for help, you do it from a place of choice, not helplessness. There is strength in that. Every challenge carries a hidden demand, not a lesson in a poetic sense, but a practical demand for growth. Some challenges demand patience, others demand courage, others demand boundaries. What now helps you discover that demand. Why me keeps you stuck in resistance. This shift does not mean suppressing emotions. Feel your frustration, acknowledge your sadness, but don't build a home there. Emotions are meant to be felt, not lived in. Once they have been felt, action must follow. The most resilient people are not those who avoid hardship, but those who respond to it wisely. They don't waste energy fighting reality, they invest energy shaping their response. That is the essence of responsibility. Life becomes lighter when you stop arguing with it. Not easier, but clearer. And clarity brings peace. What now brings peace because it aligns you with movement. Movement, even slow movement, restores hope. So the next time life feels unfair and the question, "Why me?" rises in your mind, pause, take a breath, and gently replace it with a more powerful question. What now? That one shift can turn pain into purpose, confusion into direction, and struggle into strength. Many people spend their lives waiting to feel motivated. They wake up hoping that one day they will suddenly feel inspired, energized, and ready to change everything. They believe motivation is the starting point, the magical force that pushes successful people into action. But this belief quietly delays progress, because motivation is not the cause of action. Action is the cause of motivation. If you observe your own life honestly, you'll notice this pattern. On days when you do nothing, your energy remains low, your mood stays dull, your confidence shrinks. But on days when you take even a small step, when you start working, exercising, studying, or organizing, your energy begins to rise. You didn't start because you felt motivated. You felt motivated because you started. The mind often uses lack of motivation as an excuse to stay comfortable. It says, "I don't feel like it today," as if feelings are commands. But feelings change constantly. If we allow them to decide our actions, our lives become inconsistent. Movement, on the other hand, creates rhythm. And rhythm creates momentum. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the wind to push your car instead of starting the engine. The engine of change is action. Motivation is simply the byproduct of movement. When you act, your brain releases chemicals that improve focus and mood. Biology supports behavior, not intention. The problem with relying on motivation is that motivation is emotional. Emotions are unstable. Discipline, however, is practical. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. And once something is done, the emotional reward follows naturally. Action also reduces resistance. The hardest part of any task is starting. Once you begin, the mental resistance weakens. The task may still be challenging, but it no longer feels impossible. Action shrinks fear. Inaction magnifies it. Many people believe successful individuals are always motivated. That is a myth. Successful people are often tired, bored, or uncertain. but they act anyway. They understand that progress is built on consistency, not excitement. Motivation visits occasionally. Discipline shows up daily. There is also a deeper truth: action changes identity. When you repeatedly act, you start seeing yourself differently. You become someone who follows through. That self image fuels further action. Motivation grows because your identity shifts from someone who wants to someone who does. Inaction creates guilt. Guilt drains energy. Low energy reduces motivation even further. This creates a downward spiral. Action breaks that cycle. Even imperfect action creates relief. Relief restores energy. Energy brings motivation. Action doesn't have to be big to be effective. Small steps are enough to trigger change. The mind does not need dramatic breakthroughs, it needs proof. Proof that you can move. Proof that progress is possible. That proof comes from action. When people say they lack motivation, what they often lack is structure. Motivation thrives in structure. Simple routines remove the need for emotional decision making. When action becomes a habit, motivation becomes irrelevant. Another reason we wait for motivation is fear of failure. Motivation feels safe. Action feels risky. But avoiding action does not protect you from failure, it guarantees stagnation. Failure teaches. Stagnation suffocates. Action also creates clarity. The more you do, the more you understand what works. Confusion decreases. Confidence grows. Motivation follows clarity, not the other way around. The mind may say, start tomorrow when you feel better, but tomorrow is just a concept. What exists is now. Starting now, even at low energy, is powerful. It sends a message to yourself that you are reliable. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on mood. Action is reliable because it depends on choice. And every time you choose action, you strengthen your will. The most powerful moment is not when you feel inspired, but when you act without inspiration. That is where real growth happens. That is where discipline is born. Stop asking, how do I get motivated? Start asking, what is the smallest action I can take right now? That question cuts through excuses. It leads directly to movement. And once you move, motivation will find you. Not as a dramatic surge, but as a quiet sense of progress. A feeling that says, I am doing something with my life. That feeling is more powerful than any burst of inspiration. So don't wait for motivation to knock on your door. Open the door yourself. Step out. Take action. Motivation will follow, always.